So, welcome to Magical Monday. I am excited that you're here. Today, we're talking about that micro magic, intuitive micro moments that we don't really give ourselves credit for, those little tiny magical things we do without trying. So, tonight, we're going to start pulling some of those moments out and we're going to start taking credit for them. A lot of times we think that intuition should come out like a dramatic vision, a loud booming voice, a burning bush, or a flashing neon sign. And while intuition can be pronounced and magical at times, that's not the common case. The common case is that it comes in a little more subtle until you get to know it, and then it becomes a little more pronounced. So everyone imagines a big movie moment, but it's not going to send you a billboard. It's going to start with soft little whispers or nudges that just seem to have perfect timing. So that's how intuition works. When intuition talks to you, it's going to come through, there can be several ways. So we're going to do a quick review of what your clairs are, or the clair senses. This is the way that the intuition will speak to you. So there's clairvoyance, where you might get a mental image pop into your mind, maybe while you're talking to somebody. There's clairaudience, where you just hear a voice in your head. Oftentimes it sounds like your own, or maybe it's even a ringing in the ears that gives you direction, or possibly a song for the day that tells you how your day is going to be. Then there's clairalience, which is your sense of smell, where you might smell your mother's perfume, or you might smell something that reminds you of something to give you a message. The same thing for clairgustance, which is a taste in your mouth, where you might taste something. And then also, let's see, have I got them? Oh, claircognizance, my favorite. I see lots of people with claircognizance, and that is just simply a knowing. It just arrives like fact. You don't know how you know, you just know. Then there's also, let's see if I got them all. Clairsentience. Clairsentience, I like to call it clair feelings. It's you can feel a physical feeling in your body or emotional feelings that give you messages. And then there's clairtangency. That's just kind of like the bonus clair. They call it a clair, but clairtangency is when you touch a person or an object, and you get information to you via your other clairs. So maybe you shake hands with somebody and you get a gut feeling that, oh, this is going to be a good meeting. Or maybe you touch an old antique object and you experience some of the joy and emotions it once brought people. So that was a quick rundown of your clairs. That's the way your intuition speaks to you. And I've got my cat right here. Let me move her. All right, very distracting. Okay. All right. So if you have any questions about the clairs, you can definitely hit me up. Like I said before, micro magic, you may not even realize that's coming to you. So let's talk about how our magic comes in. It'll come in differently for everyone. So, number one, do not be comparing yourself to me, to your neighbor, to your best friend. We all receive it just a little bit different. But there are some commonalities that you will find. Number one is speed. We're going to talk about all these S's. Speed, it is fast. It arrives before you think, it hits fast, it just drops in, it's just there. So, speed. Then let's talk about that real quick, because the reason it's so fast is because it's energy. It's not thinking, it's not logic, it's not deduction, it's energy. So when energy moves, it moves quickly. The second way to tell if it's your intuition is the simplicity. It's short, it's direct. I always say that it's going to tell you turn left. It's not going to say, you really should turn left because there's a big pothole. And if you go that way, you're going to hit it and get a flat tire. No, it's not going to give you rhyme or reason. It's going to be short and direct and just say simply, turn left. Um, Another thing that is, it's what I call a surprise. And that's because it kind of pops out of nowhere. It doesn't follow a thought trail. It doesn't really match what you're thinking. It may pop in and then you start thinking of it and you're thinking, wait, why am I thinking about this? But it originates, it pops in just kind of out of nowhere. It's a surprise. And then it speaks through the body. A lot of times you will feel a sensation in your body before intuition drops in. So you may get a gut feeling. Um, you may just get a sensation, a tingling, a ringing in your ears, or you just may get what I call it's just tastes different. It just feels different. So it can speak through the body. Now, don't worry if you don't notice that component right off. That's often missed until you start to get to become more acquainted to your intuition. And then the last thing that tells us that it is your intuition, especially when you're new and learning or getting to know your intuition, is second guessing. Second guessing often follows an intuitive hit. We get some information, it doesn't make sense, so the brain and logically wants to put on a lab coat and start analyzing and really thinking about it logically. But it's really just a common thing that our brain does when we have an intuitive hit and we're not used to intuitive hits or we're not familiar with them quite yet. So we'll just talk ourselves out of it. And even if you are familiar, sometimes there's times, especially when it's something big, I'll talk myself out of it. So that's how intuition comes in. So you put those things together and it's a little bit easier to spot. It's fast, it's simple, it's speaks through the body and so forth. You just don't notice it because it's not uber complicated. It's not a giant ringing bell or a burning bush to get your attention. So that means you're going to have to start paying attention a little bit to how you feel, to the sensations, to the thoughts, to what's in your mind. And I'm going to touch real quickly on emotional intelligence. Now, emotional intelligence will not give you better intuition, but emotional intelligence will enhance your intuition. So that is something to think about as well as we work on building and developing our skills. So here's some real life examples that you most likely have experienced with your intuitive senses or your psychic senses as they come in. Gut feelings. When you get this gut feeling like, oh, I need to get out of here. You have that gut feeling and it proves to be true. Gut feelings is a very common real life example. Our actual gut, they call it the second brain. I could go into detail. It is a matrix that speaks to our mind. So gut feelings, very important to pay attention to. An example of one is a nurse friend of mine. I have experience in the ER. She was triaging that day, and she went and was triaged a patient. He did not really need to come back right away. By everything that the patient talked about, said, go back out into the waiting room. However, something in her gut, just something wasn't fitting right. She had logic right here, but she had her intuition right here. That gut feeling said, you know what? Put them in a bay. And not only that, put a monitor on them. And she didn't know why. She even came up to, she goes, I don't know why I did this, but here, I've got a patient for you. He's over here in the bay. There's I just have a gut feeling about them. And no sooner did she say that the alarms started going off, and we had to go in there and defibrillate or shock the patient. So that is a real life and a very life-saving example of following and listening to your intuition and your gut feelings. Other examples of your intuition would be like knowing what the answer was, but then thinking and worrying and thinking and deducing and more thinking and then changing your mind when you were right the first place. So knowing the answer and then changing your mind. Maybe you get images that pop in. Maybe you're visual. I'm very visual. So I'll see stuff in my mind as people talk to me or when I touch things. I will get a mental image of what they're discussing or what really happened, or I just get mental cues. I mean, imaging cues. Like I'll notice something on them, like their color's different. Color's a big deal for me. Um, and so that is another way it can come in. Let's see here, some other examples. We talked about gut feelings. We've talked some about smelling, just maybe even something as simple as that little bitty nudge to take a different route, or the moment that you knew somebody was about to call, and sure enough, your phone rings, or thinking of someone and like you need to call them and it turns out you did, and once you give them a call, maybe you can feel the energy when you walk into a room and not even know why. Nobody can say anything. There doesn't even have to be anybody there for you to have the feeling of what's going on there, whether it's tense and heavy or whether it's light and joyful. That's a real life example. Another example is checking the oven before your cobbler's done and you're right on time to catch that cobbler. Or you grab that umbrella even though there's no chance of rain and then it rains. So that is when you do something when it was just timely and needed without really thinking. It's just a nudge or an urge to do that. So these are not coincidences. This is micro magic. These are micro moments of your intuition at work. And you may be asking yourself, why does this even matter? Because they show you that your intuition is already active. It is not a light switch you have to flip on. It is already on. You just have to get to know the light and push out some of the other distracting light that may be overpowering it. But your intuition is already active. And these little micro moments prove it. So when you have these micro moments, they will help you to build your confidence. You'll get, once you start paying attention to the smaller moments, and I'm going to say act on them even, or recognize them and validate them, then the bigger ones come. But you got to answer the small whispers first before the big loud bangs pop in. The easiest way to strengthen your intuitive muscle and or your psychic senses or development is to pay attention to those micro moments and respond to them. Now, I'm not saying you have to respond to them like do something, but you can respond to them by saying, I noticed that. That is an intuitive moment. I'm either going to turn left, like the nudge and told me to, or I'm going to recognize it, put it in my notebook, and see what happens. But I'm still paying attention to them. What trips people up is number one, they think it's going to be a big bang. And it's so much more beautiful than that. It's just something that envelops you quietly. So, what we do when we have that come in, there's no logic behind it. So, we begin to overthink. We judge, we read into it. We want proof before we trust. So we start, you know, killing it with logic. And then when we have that, we tend to brush it off. So that's what trips us up. The fact that we assume it's so simple, it must not be my intuition, it must not be real, or that we just overthink it because it doesn't make sense because we want proof and we want to be right. But listen, you don't have to trust your intuition. You just have to start listening to the little times it shows up and start acting on it. That is going to skyrocket you. That is going to get you to start noticing more often. So when those intuitive hits come in, just observe them. Don't read into them. Recognize them. Let them sit with you and then act on it. Acting on it will help develop that muscle. Look for it and follow it. So, through our magical week this week, practice. Watch for the first thing that lands. If it's fast, simple, surprising, if it speaks through the body, if you find yourself second guessing it, pause, take notice of it. And this week, write down 3 messages that you received. So just take a moment and watch for 3 things. You can jot it down. You could text it to yourself on your phone. You can do a notes app, jot it down on a piece of paper. But just notice 3 messages and act on one of those messages. Act. That's how you're going to gain that trust and that confidence. Your intuition is not trying to confuse you. You don't have a block. It's not turned off. You don't need an activation. It's trying to get your attention, but it's going to be small attention grabbers first. And it's going to be usually, with simple messages. You don't need the big signs to know you're intuitive. You just need to notice the magic that's already happening. And so paying attention to that magic is going to help that intuitive muscle build and your skills blossom. There are several intuitive skill building practices that I have in my book. And one of my favorite is I call it Guess What? I'm Psychic. And that's just where you go throughout your day, start noticing your intuition, and start guessing things, guessing when the light will turn green, guessing what color shirt your boss is going to wear, um, guessing what the waiter's name will be, or if they're going to be male or female, or if they're blonde or brunette, guessing what that person on the other end of the phone that you've never seen before, guessing what they look like. Just start guessing. You're going to get some things wrong, but as you play, you're going to find out that you're getting more right than wrong, that your muscle is starting to build because you're noticing things, you're observing, and you're interacting and getting to know your intuition. So, that is my tip for this magical Monday week. 3 things. Before we go, I'm going to check and see if there's any questions. I don't see any questions right now. Get 3 messages this week and act on one of them. Go be magical. Build that intuition, and we will see you next week.